Really nice to be here, to be back. I did give a talk some years ago online, right? It was in pandemic. So really happy to be back. Thank you so much for hosting me. So this is a project about misperceptions, correction of misperceptions and emotions. And it's a collaborative project with my fantastic authors, Katerina and Manos, and it's funded by the British Academy Visiting Fellowship that I did last summer, that I stayed 3 months at the Center for the Politics of Feelings. And the theoretical motivation is basically builds on my previous research that I actually presented here. I got feedback. From the hot politics, and this is the papers which shortly I'll explain it to you. Looks at how the source of corrective information can make a difference for people's willingness to correct their misperceptions about COVID. So one of the things that we looked at was whether at the start of the pandemic, if the expert information is endorsed by an informal institution, which we call mini public. It's an institution that brings together a group of randomly chosen citizens with diverse backgrounds and also attitudes to discuss the issue and then make recommendations. So the idea was that if we would see a different effect of corrective information, if this corrective expert information is endorsed by many public, and we find that this is the case. But then a question that arose for me was, what is the causal mechanism, right? What is happening there? So it's kind of a theoretical motivation for this project. And one of the hunches that I had was perhaps it's an emotional mechanism, right? As I'll explain it to you a bit more in the subsequent slides. So the hunch was that maybe seeing people who look like us, so normal lay people, would make us feel to have more warmer feelings towards the source, which would lead us to be persuaded by the corrective information. So the real world motivation is that despite the scientific consensus about the anthropogenic cause of the climate change, that climate change is mainly caused by human activity, there's still a sizable group of people across the world who hold misperceptions about it, so don't believe or are skeptical about the anthropogenic cause of climate change. So you can see here, you can see there's a sizable actually, either uncertain or they're convinced that this is climate change is entirely caused by natural processes. So this is like real world motivation of the project. And we already know, you guys probably know more than me because you're in hot politics. So emotions play a huge role in how we process information, right? And when it comes to misperceptions, there's not much research done between emotions and misperceptions. However, the research which has been done finds that information intended to misguide and misinform audiences tend to appeal to emotions. For example, the language used to discuss vaccines is often characterized by anxiety. However, most of these studies look at how emotions play a role at the formation of misperceptions and people's tendency to believe in fake news. Our interest is different here. So what we're interested in, whether emotions play a role and what kind of emotions and how, what kind of role they play in the correction of misperceptions. So not in the creation of beliefs, but in the correction processes, and whether these experienced emotions have downstream effects for beliefs, policy support, and behavior. So we know from political psychology that all types of political information content evoke emotions in individuals, and they have consequences for their belief formation. And we also know that information that is inconsistent with one's prior beliefs creates distress and discomfort in individuals, right? So building on these this prior arguments research, we argue then correction will evoke negative emotions in general in individuals. But the question that was interesting for me is then how to attenuate such negative feelings, negative emotions. So we know from the literature on misperceptions that the source of corrective information matters. So people are more persuaded by the source that they trust more. And then research argues within democratic innovation literature that people may trust citizen-centered institutions because of different reasons. First, as I told you at the start of the presentation, because of the perceptions of the members of the institution being people like me. Right, there's probably perceptions. There's a smaller gap between me and those individuals who heard from experts and endorse these evidence. And the second, since it's a randomly chosen group of citizens from different walks of life, they also bring to the table diverse interests and diverse needs. What I argued in my PhD, one of the arguments I made, that it also could be, since we see people who are like us, right, who are not experts, supposedly don't have interests at stake, then we would have a more warmer feelings towards the members and the institution. Then the second hypothesis, pre-registered hypothesis, is that endorsement of corrective information by a group of lay individuals would attenuate the negative emotional consequences of being exposed to corrective information. So that means more positive emotions and less negative emotions. And then we have some questions without hypothesis. First, what are the consequences of experienced emotions, and whether they are, and what are the downstream effects of experienced emotions on beliefs and behavior with respect to climate change. So for this project, we have 3 studies. 2 of them have been already fielded. And the third one, that's what I need you for, your feedback and comments. So the first study is a pre-registered survey experiment in the US, which consists of 2 waves. Second one is RPPG. I'm not able to pronounce it correctly, but remote photoplethysmography. That's a thing. So I'll explain what it is. Let's call it RPPG. And the third would be replications to the first study in the UK context. Okay, so the study one is a survey experiment. Just a reminder that we're interested in the differential effect of the source of corrective information, and the treatment is corrective information in the form of a video. And we'll have these outcome variables: experienced emotions, correction of misperceptions, and then downstream effects, which are beliefs about climate change, pro-environmental policy support, and self-reported climate action. So this is more or less the design. So we fielded wave 1, which was a bigger sample, and there we measured people's belief about anthropogenic cause of climate change. And then one of the reasons why we did it in the wave 1, because we wanted in wave 2, well, when we did the survey experiment, to have oversample of skeptics. And so then we oversampled the skeptics for wave 2. And then wave 2, they had a pre-treatment survey, and then they were randomly assigned to 4 conditions. So we were principally interested in the difference between just expert correction and citizen endorsement. However, of course, a question could be that what if it's not like citizen deliberation, but deliberation per se, which is like a discussion per se. That's why we had another condition, which was visually. I will explain it to you. Visually is the same. However, instead of lay citizens discussing, deliberating, was experts deliberating. And then we had a placebo condition, which was unrelated video. And then we measured people's belief accuracy, the experienced emotions, and then downstream effects. So if we have time, I can show you the videos. They're very short. They're 1 minute and something. So this is the placebo condition. some 1-minute history. This is on the left is the expert correction. We took it from internet, from YouTube, and we just adapted and shortened it. And then this is also taken from our previous video, which we published in Political Communication, and we adapted to climate change, voiceover changed, and then we also shortened it. This is a Zoom deliberation. So what we do, we first explain that it's a citizens' assembly that brings together a group of lay citizens. They discuss, they hear from the expert, and this video is embedded. So in this condition, the expert correction is already embedded inside as a control for it. And then one of the members basically endorses, says, well, we have looked at the expert evidence and we have decided, we think that the source is anthropogenic. So the same video visually was about expert deliberation, and voiceover was different. Instead of saying lay citizens, we said a group of diverse experts came together, they deliberated, etc. Okay, it was pre-registered. That's a bit of information about sample, and this is a distribution of belief accuracy at wave 1, so that you can have an idea who were these people. So you can see that, well, it's oversampled, because if we didn't oversample, it would be more skewed. Yeah, because it's prolific as well. So it's also a bit biased poster. So the first hypothesis was that correction will evoke negative emotions in individuals, and you can see these are the mean negative emotions indexed. We scale from 0 to 1, which is sound, anger, frustration, alarm, and outrage. This was the question. So it was targeted to the video. You can see that the mean negative emotions are higher in all 3 conditions. If you have any questions, you can stop me. I don't mind to be interrupted. So then, of course, we just did subgroup analysis to see, is it just for people who, to start with, had incorrect, like inaccurate beliefs? But we see that no, it's not only the negative emotions are experienced not only by people who are misperceived to start with, but also who held already accurate beliefs, which is puzzling. You can give me some ideas what you think can be happening here. And it's actually, if you see, sometimes the effect is bigger. So, and the second hypothesis was that these negative emotions would be attenuated if the source is a citizens' assembly, mini public. So we also looked at, this is just descriptive information. We looked at whether respondents feel like the members of the assembly as opposed to experts, or people like them. So that the perceptions of like me, right, one of the causal mechanisms, and you can see that there's a difference, even though it's not huge, but so they perceive citizens to be like them, and also to be more impartial, genuine, represent them, they trust them, they're well informed, etc. And this is just the effects of corrective videos. You see that, so the first is among the total sample, and then we subsampled only misperceived correct, and only those who held correct beliefs, and then interventions works in all cases. So all kinds of corrective information works, which means that having watched the video, just 1 minute. Oh, no, my God. Oh, you have a question? I thought I have 1 minute left. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
What is on the x-axis here? Like what are we looking at?
So this is post-treatment beliefs, accuracy of beliefs. No, sorry. So the post-treatment variable capturing the beliefs about the source, controlling for pre-treatment.
And the range?
So the range is, the variable is from 1 to 5, because it's like it's accurate, probably accurate, uncertain or unsure, not accurate, probably not accurate, and not accurate. So it's yeah. So dependent variable is post-treatment measure for capturing beliefs. Yeah. So the question was something like, do you think the statement is correct, or is accurate, or is not accurate? And the statement was, oh, it's actually here. I'll explain you because I showed this to you, right? Okay. Yeah. My memory now fails me. Sorry about that. Here, climate change is due to natural variability of the Earth's climate rather than human caused. Yeah, does it answer your question?
You got an extra minute.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so you see that all interventions, all videos work, and there's not really difference, right? And then this is within subject change. This is not a very successful graph, I have to say, but so that you can see, like, basically they created like backlashes, so that the subgroup of people who had backlash, so basically had like went to the extreme, and then no change, and then correction, and you can see visually that the first one is a control, second one is expert correction, expert deliberation, and citizen deliberation. So you can see the larger effects. Look at within subject changes in each group. Yeah, and smaller backlash, much smaller actually. So the difference is huge.
Sorry, what was your control condition?
So control condition, they watched the video about the history.
Oh.
1 minute history.
1 minute history. Yeah, it was about planet. Our planet. But it has nothing. It had nothing to do about climate change. But because
I'm surprised there's such a backlash though.
Yeah, it's an effect of the survey or something. Yeah, I am also, but
Statistically, I guess the backlash effect is statistically larger in control conditions
than the others.
right? Well, I'm guessing because there's no interval, but
no. Yeah.
Also move into the correction side, right? So might also just be a bit of random noise here.
yeah, but yeah. Control conditions.
Okay, so maybe this clarifies a bit more. So this is just like mean pre-treatment beliefs. So as I said, the variable was from 1 to 5. So here is not rescaled. And this is a post-treatment mean beliefs. And the greater numbers means more accurate. Yeah, and here we do have confidence intervals. Okay, subgroup for partisanship. I thought that would be a question. I didn't interact because that wasn't what we thought we were doing for registration, and I don't think we have enough power. So this is just for descriptive purposes. The effect holds across this subgroup of people. And then, as I said, we were also interested in downstream effects, whether the videos had any downstream effects on people's climate change or pro-environmental beliefs, and their policy support and climate action. So one of the questions that we asked was, how much do you think climate change will harm future generations? And we see there's something happening here. So the expert, having watched the expert deliberation corrective video, has a positive effect, and then citizen deliberation as well. The second question was, how often do you intend to discuss climate change with others? And there's some effect here among those who have watched citizen deliberation. And there's nothing for pro-environmental policy support. Okay, so these questions were more like exploratory, and I would love to hear your opinion about that. So we wanted to see whether the experienced emotions have consequences, and you see the emotionality is basically like summing all the emotions. See, emotionality is positively correlated with people's willingness to correct their misperceptions. And then I created negative emotions, and I took the empathy out of it as well, the 3 or 4 adjectives capturing empathy and enthusiasm, you see that there's not much difference because, I mean, it's contrary to some of the theories, right? So it's not negative effect, the effect of, or it's not really effect, it's more like correlation, yeah, because both of them are measured post-treatment. But you see that they're positive, all kinds of emotions, experienced emotions are positively correlated with willingness to correct the misperception.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that. Can you speak up a bit?
Oh yes, of course. So if individuals report higher levels of experienced emotions, irrespective of the valence of the emotion, whether it's negative or positive, it seems that its emotionality is correlated, is positively associated with their willingness to correct misperceptions. So there's a positive relationship between more emotions and if emotional affected and willingness to correct the misperceptions. So these are our main takeaways. So corrective information makes people more negative, yes, and these negative emotions are correlated with correction. But in general, if we look at the emotions, corrective information makes people more emotional or engaged emotionally. And then emotionality in general, irrespective of the valence of the emotions, is correlated with tendency to correct one's misperceptions. A short, very short debunking video works about the issue of anthropogenic cause of the climate change. However, deliberation doesn't really seem to matter for the tendency to correct one's misperceptions, but it matters in some cases, not consistently, for some of the attitudes and pro-environmental behavior. Okay, the study 2 is a cool study, more than anything because I didn't know about this technique before. So that's one of the things that I learned with Manos and his team was about RPPG. So here, what is RPPG is a technique that allows via videos, video recording, to capture the people's heart rates. Okay, so how we did it? They watched the video and their faces and neck, this part is recorded, and then the RPPG algorithm detects the subtle variation on the skin of the face and the neck, and then gives you a mean heart rate. Yeah, so this is in situ. So while they watch the video, our treatment. And then this provides a proxy for emotional arousal. But it has some limitations because in order for data to be valid, the person who takes the survey has to not move and be quiet and should have the camera well so that it captures well. And I will show you now that we lost lots of data because of this. Okay, so we had the same survey experiment, however, with the reduced design, because here what we were interested in specifically the layperson aspect of the video. So we had a mini public deliberation as opposed to expert deliberation. So deliberation was controlled for. And then we added a feature that recorded individuals' faces and neck while they watched the video stimuli. It was IRV approved. That's important. It was programmed in Gorilla and analyzed in MATLAB. My co-author, Katerina, was responsible for that. She's the expert in that. I think she might be online, so if you have any questions, you can address them to her. And then we fielded these experiments among 245, and you can see we lost lots of data. So the ultimate data was 95. And this is, so what here is the mean heart rates for respondents who were exposed to mini public video. And this was the expert deliberation video. So you see the line, which is median, and the triangle is mean. There's not much happening, it's probably underpowered. And here what we did, we divided the time, the interval 1, which is the first part. It's actually the explanation of the institution happens. lay people, they come together, etc. The central one, and then the third, which is the endorsement, is happening, just to see if there's any changes in emotional arousal among respondents. There's not much happening here either, probably because it's underpowered, right? We can't tell anything. Okay, what do I want from you? So I would like you to think, and what we didn't consider in our previous studies, because we haven't filled it the study 3. We have already designed it, but we're going to fill it in the coming weeks. So if you have any ideas about causal mechanisms or anything we should capture, to give a robust answer to our research question, is theoretical argument. It's not like well developed now, but is it convincing? What kind of ideas you have? Any studies that you can recommend? Any other recommendations that would be welcome? Thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you so much for that fascinating talk. I think we'll open the floor for questions. So whoever has any thoughts or suggestions or questions, welcome.
Thank you. That really have a lot of thoughts, but maybe something that might not have understood. So in this first study, can you look at on the slides where you see the emotions have the emotion shaped experience?
Right. Do you mean this one? Negative emotions?
Yeah. So basically they are the same in all treatments, right?
Yes, exactly.
And you tell me, so what I understood is like this idea of, okay, corrections evoke negative emotions, but is it just climate change that evokes negative emotions?
Yeah.
Is it a correction I'm facing, or is it the fact that we talk about climate change? And that's what I would be most interested in, to see like a complete meaningless correction to something you believe, and see if that would evoke negative emotions.
Okay. But if so, thank you. So if it's climate change per se, then in the control condition, they also asked about things about climate change, but they're not exposed, of course, information about climate change. So
about climate change, people say, no, this might be true or not true, and so I'm wondering if the whole climate change discussion itself evokes emotion.
yeah. So then to answer your question would be to take another issue and look at whether there's the same effect.
Exactly. Or I'm wondering why is it high in the deliberation? Because, I mean, then you could argue deliberation is also correction. So maybe that's why it's high in all three. But if the deliberation conditions are not correction, then why is it high in all three of them? You know what I mean? No.
Sorry, not the last one. Yeah.
So I think, like you said, like there's the expert correction, and then there's the two deliberations.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in your argument, all three of them are corrections.
Yes, they were all corrected videos. Yeah.
So I think what I would say is like, okay, is there one where there's no correction, but the discussion about climate change?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I understand it now. Yes. That would be a good test. Yeah.
I don't have a question, but just I want to follow up on that, because you also find this effect for the people for whom it was not really a correction because they already believed it more.
Exactly.
And you find that they experience the same
emotions, and that just basically points to the fact that there is something about the climate change that frustrates everybody, right? And that kind of extra condition would help you distinguish it.
That's very helpful. Yes, thank you.
Fingers on this. So I think it would be really nice to see if this is different among those for which this was a correction and those for which this was just telling them what they know, right? Because to me that made me angry as well, right? So I mean, someone is explaining me something that's obvious. Right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I really have to split this and
so
between these two groups because we have the information.
Yeah, so one of the things that we have included in the replication study is after the question measuring emotions, we have a question which asks basically, why do you think you felt? So the battery of question, and then we have a question which says, what was the strongest emotion you think you have experienced? And then we programmed in a way that asks, why did you feel angry, right? So just basically embedded the response from previous. And then we have several options like causal mechanism saying something like this is obvious, right? And the third one, I don't like to see citizens to talk about these issues, or I don't like experts to talk about these issues. So here, if you have any other ideas, why would citizens be like feeling these emotions, then we can include it as an item that potentially captures the causal mechanisms of why only those people, not only those people who were misperceived to start with experience negative emotions, but also those who held accurate beliefs. Yeah, this is an important point. Thank you. Kike.
Yeah, thanks. I'm not sure whether I missed this, but I think the pitch was sort of that you thought maybe the different types of messengers create different types of emotions.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And that doesn't really seem to bear out.
No.
But but this is also a scale of all the 4 negative emotions, right? And I wonder if there's a difference between the types of emotions that experts and citizens generate. So like maybe experts are better at generating anxiety, but they also generate more frustration or something.
Yeah, there's nothing there either.
But you want like different types of messengers to have different impacts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a great point, because one of the things that we didn't register as a hypothesis, one of the things I thought, because that comes from my previous research, is that looking at other late citizens would make people more empathetic, right? And perhaps these the heightened levels of empathy would alleviate the negative emotions, but that's not there. There's something happening, but it's not really statistically significant. So, yeah. No. So in terms of discrete emotions, there's not much difference either. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lala. It's a bit of a methodological point, I guess, about the study design that you're going to try to replicate. If I remember correctly, you post-treatment first measure the beliefs and then the emotions.
Yes, yes.
One being very critical could say that then interact using the beliefs to look at the responses of the emotions to say, oh, that's conditioning on a post-treatment variable. So in terms of the design, and I think this, if you go to political science, you will run into this crowd, experimentalists who are gonna make a fuss out of it. So the question is, did I remember that correct? And if so, I would, for the follow-up study, think if emotions are really your key contribution, think about a way of solving this. One way would be to at minimum randomize the order in which you ask the emotion battery and the beliefs to
okay.
Post-treatment period.
So in some cases, it's right after the treatment, they're asked about emotions. In other,
because now people could say, well, you've just asked them about their beliefs, and so is this now. And then you're splitting the groups on the people who have responded differently to the treatment. Some have backlash, some have corrections, and then you ask their emotions. So there's all sorts of.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Lala. I was wondering, why do you use existing videos, right?
Yes.
Why don't you use manipulated ones? So, for instance, why you use the same person who is in one video an expert, in the other video a lay person presenting this deliberative group, for instance, and in the third and fourth, or in the last one, someone who is just saying something about the history, and I don't know, right? But why you keep things more constant? Why was this your choice?
It was for practical reasons, but also I think real world, right? We use videos which exist out there, but of course we lose control. So, probably would have been much better to use the same person or persons, and then, but at least on expert deliberation and citizen deliberation, we use the exactly same video. So it's just voiceover that differs.
But it might, that's true. But then when you compare it to the expert video, of course, there you see one single person, right?
Yes, but other conditions embed expert video. Does it make sense? So we control for it.
Okay,
Yeah, because the structure is that this is citizens assembly, They hear from experts, which then the same video that the people watched in the expert correction, they watch it in its entirety, and then they say they came to these recommendations. So across 3 conditions, the expert video is controlled for. Yeah.
Do you have a question back here? Yeah, so we'll do you, and then we'll go to you.
Yeah, yeah, I think that was super interesting. So yeah, I think the questions are kind of related to what you said earlier and what you just said, Matai. So I also think it would be really interesting to see a replication of a different issue, either in a different context or in the same context, because like climate change, whether it's human caused, or not, that word anyway, you know what I mean. Like that's something that people are exposed to all the time, right? Probably these days, even people who think that climate change is not caused by humans and don't tend to kind of consume the kind of media that, you know, pushes the message that it is, even they will probably be quite frequently exposed to that, right? So I was quite surprised that there does seem to be quite a lot of correction, even though, again, probably those people have heard that a lot and have probably quite a lot of negative emotions towards, you know, people not taking their views seriously, and maybe the other way around as well. So yeah, with the last kind of emotional issue, I would find that really interesting that that happens as well. And then the second question is, a bit selfish because I'm doing some research on that as well, but do you think it matters who the expert is? Because I think this was like I couldn't quite tell, but was it like kind of a middle-aged white man?
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, yes. Yes.
I can tell tungsten, but then I wonder to what extent that maybe, and you had that question about whether the expert is like me or not.
Yeah.
I forgot in what context you asked that, but could it be that you have suffered heterogeneity in terms of how people react to this person? And I think it would be really interesting to see whether there are differences when the expert is a different kind of person, but that maybe goes more into a different direction.
Thank you. No, absolutely. I agree with you in both cases. I mean, and then the first case, do you think having the separate condition that, I don't know, that shows just like people talking about climate change would account for this effect? That yours, because like for let me tell you, when we did the previous experiments about COVID, that was where the ideas came, right? I had a battery of questions about emotions, and it's exactly the same. So it was about COVID. It was also the correction, all types of corrections made people to experience negative emotions. However, it's also polarized and dividing issue like climate change, right? So
I guess it's 2 things. Like one is how emotional is the issue for you and how kind of salient is it?
Yeah.
And the other one is how often have they been exposed to this information? It would be quite interesting to see when, you know, people believe something, I don't know, and then about something that's maybe not super relevant, and then I don't know, the health effects of something, and then they hear, you know, contradictory evidence perhaps where they don't feel like it really taps into their like core beliefs and ideologies so much.
Yeah.
Did you find stronger effects on COVID than on climate change, or weaker, or about the same?
They're similar, but I would say in the first wave, so first stage of COVID, the effects were larger. Especially, no, there was no effect of expert correction. Only there was an effect of citizen deliberation, and it was 0.42 standard deviations. So it wasn't trivial. It wasn't minor.
The reason why I asked is I would think that emotional responses, whether you feel emotionally discomfortable when your priorly held beliefs contradict with new information, that really depends on how much you care about the issue, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that COVID would be something that people during the pandemic would really feel very strongly about them because it raises fear and anxiety, those kind of things. So I would expect there to be more strong emotional responses than with other political issues or clearly political issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do you think then in the replication study, if I mean, if we ask a question about salience, if the topic, how important it is for you, and then take it as a moderator, it's not going to count wholly for these, but might, if there are any differences, to see.
Yeah, of course, I don't know how many people you can ask or can include in your survey, but it would be interesting to have different issues with different levels of salience.
Yes.
People, and maybe before doing the experiment, ask people, well, you ask them their opinion anyways, because otherwise you don't know whether they switch or not. But, and ask how important they think this issue is. And then if you have different issues that may be an important moderator, that's what I would expect.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. It's helpful, thanks.
Yes, thanks. Sorry, I have one more question. So when I think about your method and this idea of correction evoking negative emotions, I'm wondering if it's like, why does it evoke negative emotions? And one argument one could make is also it depends on is it public or private. So when I watch videos, it's not me who's being offended, right? It's on a very meta level that my beliefs are contradicting. So I'm wondering if you ever done a study where people basically voice their opinion and are corrected. Because I would assume that that really evokes a very strong emotion in the sense that, like, you're showing publicly I am wrong, or you know what I mean?
Yes,
I'm just wondering if you have considered this, and this is also like, what is the mechanism behind it? Is it like attacking my self idea, my self concept that I have, or is it more like in this kind of correction that it's like, okay, maybe I can deliver to myself, okay, maybe I am wrong very privately, and this is why I correct also my accuracy beliefs.
Yes, thank you. No, we didn't consider in this video, but I have another study that I'm doing laboratory experiments with small group deliberation, where they have to expose and express their arguments, each person who participates. We don't have findings because it's an ongoing, but that would be interesting to see. That's a great idea to see how this works out. I mean, we know from research that if you are asked to justify your position, this creates kind of a accountability mechanism, and it could be actually positive. It might make you to think more reflectively afterwards. So, but we'll see from the experiment. I don't have any empirical evidence on that. So thank you. But thanks.
Gustavo, and then here, and then
Concerning the second study, I was wondering if you looked into correlations between heart rate and post-treatment self-report. And in that case, I understand that maybe after cleaning up the sample, you probably have like a lower number of participants. I was wondering how many you still have after all of that process.
We had 94. That was the last. There's nothing there. But yeah, sorry. I mean, I'm just gonna be blunt. Honest. There's nothing happening there. So, I mean, you guys would know, right? You have a study also, like kind of methodologically comparing those two. I was basically, in terms of a training, I was also interested to see what is happening. And I would like these to be replicated with a larger sample and see if the sample is powered within a match, or are they like diverging, or what is happening with self-reported and physiological. That would connect to your study, guys. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So another comment related to this. So I think the videos are great, right? But I think it makes your treatment being like a compound treatment, right? So it's a correction together with many other things, right? And we try to control with this by embedding the expert in all the conditions, right? So there's only one thing that changes, right? But still is more of a compound treatment, right? So it could be the correction, or it could be something related to the videos that makes everybody, like angry, right? Or evokes these negative emotions. So I'm wondering if you want to directly ask about this. So if you want to ask, how do you think the video made you feel? And how did you feel when in the video you were told that climate change is caused by humans? Right? To try to kind of like disentangle a bit. Is it the videos?
Open-ended, you mean?
Or the same thing with the emotional battery scale, right? So how did you feel when you were told that climate change is caused by humans? Or, I mean, we haven't watched the videos, so I don't know what they are told, but the
Would you like
which
to
is
watch
the
the
corrections, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's useful because it's for post-treatment, but I think that may help you.
Thank you. Yeah. So how did you feel watching, how did the video made you?
Exactly.
The one we have, and then how did you feel when you were
told
corrected?
Exactly, when you were told that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe you already talked about this, but I was wondering, do people, you have backlash, no change, and what was the other category?
And the correction.
Yeah, but that's not the same correction as you use here, right? Is it?
What do you mean?
So
Is it?
here
Yeah.
your
No,
correction is
here,
a treatment.
here is a treatment,
Yes.
exactly.
So
So videos, watching videos.
Yes.
Yeah.
So do people who have corrected their beliefs or who've backlashed, do they have similar emotional experiences? Or are they very different sorts of experiences?
That's a great question. Yeah. No, I didn't look at this. I will.
Because
Yeah.
I think both in terms of heart rate and in terms of this, well, I at least would be interested to see the difference. I'm not sure if it's there. But.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll look into that. I haven't. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura, for a great talk. I was sort of like stepping into what was mentioned here about perception of experts. And I was wondering if in the pre-treatment that was asked about like people's perception of trust in like science or scientists, experts on controlling for that. Because it would be very interesting to see like what type of like effect, like emotional response, like people who have like distrust in experts, like what does that cause, like versus like do they trust, for example, like and correction by lay people more versus experts, and what type of like negative emotion does that evoke and difference in that?
We did ask a question about trust in experts, and there was no moderating effect of this variable. It was again exploratory because we didn't pre-register it, but not moderating effect for willingness to correct. However, I haven't looked at the experienced emotions, so I'm going to look at this. Is a good suggestion. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lala. You did excellent work earlier on reasoning within, and I wonder why you constrain yourself to Likert scale types of emotions, which, if you look at the treatment effects, they're just like one-on-one aligning. So people who are angry are also indicating all sorts of other things, and some of the work coming here out of Isabella's dissertation also suggests that people are not really good at disentangling all this stuff. So I'm wondering, for the replication, why not, and it relates to Enrique's question, and sort of why not ask people to write down how they feel, and you get maybe a lot richer information also about, you could even tie it to some of your reasoning work. So are people, you get different types of reasoning when they are corrected versus when they are affirmed? Does that even, it's almost seems going back to more explorative in the what you present as a confirmatory study, but that might actually give you more answers than once more seeing, okay, so people report their, have a bunch of negative feelings, but so my question would be, why are you constraining yourself to the self-reports?
For pragmatic reasons, basically, because open-ended, I mean, I did in my previous research, but it depends what kind of dictionaries you use. You cannot, I mean, there's always a need for manual coding, so I suppose and it's taxing, so but we're definitely gonna ask it because it's important, for this replication study. But do you know of any any way of automatically, quantitatively analyzing emotions?
I guess there are more and more dictionaries that are pretty good at picking up discrete emotions.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
I should look into that.
The BERT models that they were
okay.
They were pretty good, I think. Toby Sweetman has a paper on that, but that's in German. So, but I think if you can do it in German, you must be able to do it in English.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe you need to ask Mamas if he can free up a little bit of money from the center, right? So, no, but he probably has interest in doing more of this, so for him it will also be a nice learning exercise.
Yeah, great.
A
Thanks.
short question, why only look at heart rate and not variability?
Variability of heart rate across what, the whole process?
No, so there's so many ways. So heart rate as a measure of arousal is on.
Yeah.
Other people argue it's more variability that captures actually the arousal components of emotion.
Yeah. I don't know. Katerina, do you want to respond to this question? Are you there?
Hi, all. Yeah. Can you please repeat the question?
She's not.
Is your volume up? Oh, I can.
Oh, it's okay.
No? Yeah, I don't know. So RPPG, my understanding is that RPPG algorithm gives you the mean for, I think, so the minimum has to be, if I remember well, like 30, 40 seconds. Otherwise, it's not.
Yeah, otherwise it tends to be not enough.
Uncertainty levels is bigger.
Mm.
So the measure that it gives you, I mean, you need to have a sufficient number of seconds to capture it. So you cannot really do the variability. I mean, I showed you the only variability that, I mean, I showed you before, right? 3 points, like phase 1, phase 2, because the video is short, right? Then, yeah, there was nothing, right?
So you probably need to bring in thousands of people to get any meaningful difference.
Or to have it in lab conditions, because then you can control that people do it well.
Tie their head.
Yeah.
There was also a question there in the back.
On your right side, and then is there one in the back?
Niet dat ik weet. Het
wordt.
So Hanrita, Celine.
Okay, I have a brief question about where did the warmth get lost in the story? Because you started the warmth. So you said that one of the things why citizens should be perceived as warm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would alleviate the negative effects of corrections, right?
Yeah.
And I somehow lost the warmth in the story. And I think you operationalized it as, do you think these are people like me in the video that you saw or not?
That's
right?
why, yeah, that's why you feel warmer towards them. Yeah. Yeah, but it's not, no. So it's like less negative emotions and more positive emotions. That was, so more enthusiasm, more hopefulness.
But do you think you actually manipulated the warmth through this video? Right? So I'm not sure whether it's the warmth or something else about this deliberative public that is there. It might be actually that some people just find them not warm at all because there is some variability, like variance of people in that constellation of the group. And then do you actually capture that mechanism then, right?
Yeah.
So how I would define warmth is through, these are people who have my interest at stake. I know there are different definitions of warmth in the literature, but I don't think this is happening with also this manipulation check that you have about how close these people represent a person like me or against me, right? So maybe that's something
a good
also
point
to think about for the next study.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good point. Thank you. Thank you.
I was also wondering if you thought about to look whether it's the video or the actual correction to maybe rather than having the video, having like a description, like a text. So saying like this is an expert opinion, and then the correction rather than just the video itself.
Yeah, could be the mode. I mean, mode of communication is different. Yeah, it's not text, it's video. But I suppose because we like respondents in the control condition, they watch the placebo video, so we count for the mode of communication. But you're right. I mean, it could be different the way that people process information, written one as opposed to, audiovisual one. But we don't have it in our design. We cannot. Cannot look at it. Thank you.
We have time for maybe 2 more.
Yeah, it might be a bit specific or far-fetched. Thank you. But I was thinking about in the videos, is there also a moderator present who guides the deliberation on the expert's opinion? Yeah or not?
No.
Okay.
But in a real one, so in my lab experiments, we do have a moderator, facilitator, because that's one of the important features of a deliberation.
Maybe the moderator has an impact on the discussion then as well. But then I was also wondering, like, are there high levels of disagreement within that mini public? Or is it just as they watch the expert video and they're all kind of like, this expert is right or this expert is wrong, or were there varying?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the sentence basically that when the video starts, it says that brought together randomly chosen individuals who have different views on the issue. That's the diversity is captured with one sentence. Okay. Yeah.
And while they were deliberating, there was also still a variance of arguments they made, or not at all?
No, we don't get, I mean, the video is very short, so we don't get into specifics of who argued what and what was the level of disagreement. But yeah, you can do it in lab experiment settings and account for group level of variables. But this is a good point, because the diversity of perspectives is at the heart of what good deliberation should be. Right.
Yeah. So maybe also the respondents don't feel represented because they don't hear their own opinions in the video.
Yeah. So one of the reasons of designing this video like this is that basically for a political communication paper, we watched lots of TV programs and news items about citizen assemblies just to see what kind of information are given usually. So it's approximate to real world exposure to these kind of institutions. To make it simple and the kind of information we're usually given. But you're right, it might make a difference. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. All right, if we don't have any more, I think we'll wrap up. So thank you again.
Thanks to you. That was